This is a fan-generated show. If you'd like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our new Rumble channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm thrilled to announce the release of my new book, Obama's True Legacy: How He Transformed America. There's a reason why Mike Huckabee calls it a ferocious and chilling read. Order it now at Amazon.com or at FrontPageMag.com.
Breaking news: Joe Biden is senile. This is a story that nobody in the media had ever heard of before and is now very shocked to discover may be the case. According to the media, Joe Biden, a guy who randomly finishes speeches with "God Save the Queen," a guy who claimed that his uncle was eaten by cannibals and that his son died in Iraq, both of which are entirely false, a guy who wanders off in the middle of major events, that there was anything wrong with him at all. According to the media, it had absolutely no way of knowing this. No way of knowing it at all. Executive editor of the New York Times, former executive editor of the New York Times, I should say, Joe Abramson, said that there was a massive cover-up and a veil of secrecy. There was such an incredibly massive cover-up and such an incredible veil of secrecy that a poll in February found that 60% of Americans were not confident about Joe Biden's mental state. Somehow these Americans, the 6 out of 10 Americans, had figured out something that none of the 85,000 reporters in the media could manage to figure out. What's their secret? Maybe the New York Times should hire them instead. Of course, the media knew exactly what was going on with Joe Biden, and they proved it by the moment the whistle was sounded. They started authorizing running stories about Joe Biden's mental state with lots of sources and quotes from people on the record. Carl Bernstein of Woodward and Bernstein, the brilliant Watergate investigators. Carl Bernstein came forward and said he had multiple sources who described 15, 20 similar incidents. If only he'd broken the story when there was actually a story rather than when there was suddenly a permission granted to the media to actually tell the story. Bottom line is that the media was lying then, and guess what? The media is still lying now. It's not that the media suddenly uncovered this massive conspiracy during which the object of the conspiracy was wandering around spouting complete gibberish during public speeches, confusing Iran and Ukraine repeatedly during public speeches. If only intrepid investigators of the media had caught on to this one. No. The media could never penetrate this massive conspiracy. But the media is still lying. And the media is lying just as much now as it was then. It's just that the motive, the agenda, the trajectory of the lies have changed. Back then it was, no, there's nothing wrong with Joe Biden at all. It's just a cheap fake conspiracy to think that there's anything wrong with this guy who just randomly starts telling a crazy lie about his son dying in Iraq and his uncle being eaten by cannibals. Now it's, of course, Joe Biden must immediately resign for the good of the country. There's something wrong with him. And only this massive conspiracy, this massive cover-up, this veil of silence prevented us, our intrepid reporters at the New York Times and the Washington Post and CNN, from figuring it out. No, they're lying then, they're lying now. It's just that their agenda has changed, but it's fundamentally the same. Their agenda is to put a Democrat into the White House. Their agenda is to bolster the agendas of the left. And it's just a question of how they get there. Now, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, the way to get there was to keep on lying about Joe Biden. Right now, they've decided that the way to get there now is to remove Joe Biden, replace him with Kamala or Governor Newsom or Pete Buttigieg or somebody who has a pulse and at least will not end speeches with "God Save the Queen." It's a small ask, but maybe Kamala Harris can pull it off. I'm not super confident, but maybe she can do it. Bottom line is the media lies all the time. It's not simply that it lies, because lying implies kind of Hillary-esque making up stuff for no reason at all, or Joe Biden style making up stuff. The media doesn't make up stuff. No, certainly not randomly. What the media does is it acts as the communications arm of the Democratic Party and of the left. So what it does is it's engaging in opposition research against political opponents, and it's engaging in marketing and promotion of the politicians it supports. And that can change because, John Fetterman used to be an object of admiration. Now that he came out for Israel, came out against a bunch of stuff that the left liked, suddenly he's a bad man. And, Joe Biden, well, It's not as if the media ever really liked him, but he was the standard bearer of the Democratic Party to stop Trump, to stop Republicans, and to fulfill, various leftist ideas and agendas like men being able to shower with women and Hamas being able to survive the war in Israel. So as a result, they had to prop up Biden. But right now, Biden does not look like he's in very good shape. And so we've got to save democracy by rigging democracy or something or other. We had all these speeches about saving democracy and upholding democracy and fortifying democracy. In reality, of course, the DNC and the Biden people rigged the Democratic primaries in very, very plain sight and persecuted went after anybody who would challenge Biden, whether it was Representative Dean Phillips, his Democratic opponent, whom you conveniently never heard about in the media, or Say No Labels, which proposed a nonpartisan ticket as an alternative to Joe Biden. And now, of course, after claiming that Biden was the only choice for democracy and rigging the election for him, the Democratic Party election for him, now they've got to re-rig the whole thing all over again and argue that Biden is now a threat to democracy because he's just so out to lunch that he might lead to the wrong people winning a Democratic election, and that just would end democracy. So the only way to save democracy is to rig an election once, twice, and then maybe as a lucky charm, rig the general election the third time. But of course, you can't possibly say that because that is a crazy conspiracy theory, much like suggesting that the media is well aware that Biden was an insane, rambling idiot with obvious mental issues, but chose not to discuss this for political reasons. We don't believe in crazy conspiracies like that, obviously, So we must absolutely put our trust in the media the second time around, the third time around, the fourth time around. Surely the same media which could not be trusted to state the obvious, what everybody was seeing in front of them, including random Democrats I would talk to, that same media can now be trusted to finally tell us the truth, because certainly the media would not just keep lying to us over and over and over again. What would that make the media exactly? Thank you for listening. This has been another Daniel Greenfield moment for the Glazov Gang.